Do you eat like an artist? What that implies is that your plate or your bowl becomes a canvas for color. Why is this important? Because color, and when I say color on your plate, I'm not talking about jelly tots or Smarties or wine gums. I'm talking about fresh produce, so colorful foods that you find in nature. So vegetables, salads, and fruit. We know that those foods in particular are incredibly good for us, and that when we look at groups of people that live the longest with good quality of life, so lower levels of disability. For instance, in Japan there's an island called Okinawa, and many scientists have been quite intrigued by why they have such a high concentration of people that live to over 100, and they're healthy and strong and fit and well. And of course there's various reasons why, but one of the strong commonalities that they find is that when we look at their diet in particular, these individuals are eating lots of color. They eat like an artist. Why? Because the pigments in vegetables and salads and fruit that makes them colorful, so for instance the beta carotene that makes carrots orange, or the chlorophyll that makes leafy greens green, or the anthocyanins that make cherries that deep purple, or beetroot that lovely purple color, those different pigments are bioactive compounds. We call them phytonutrients or antioxidants. That's a mouthful, but basically what that means is that those compounds are really good for your body and your health. And they act almost as medicines would do. So if you have a headache, you take a pill, it takes the headache away. These kind of foods, you eat them and they slow down aging, they reduce inflammation, they're really good for us. But I know that when we are faced with the challenge of being time poor, stress rich, often the one part of our diet that gets neglected is the color, because it takes a bit of planning and effort, and sometimes it's easier to pick convenience meals. And if you think of a convenience meal, any meal that you go and buy that's ready-made out of a supermarket probably has no color, and it's just beige because it's mainly carbohydrate or starch like pasta or rice or potato with a protein. So that's not colorful. We're talking about this beautiful rainbow colors, so greens and reds and oranges and yellows. And the more color you can bring into your diet, the more color you can bring onto every plate of food that you have, the better. I mentioned in an earlier module that one practical way to do this is whenever you have the opportunity, whenever there is color available, is to make sure you put the color onto your plate first, because that will displace the amount of place that is available for the other stuff without you feeling deprived, but it makes sure that you incorporate that. But ideally, if you're really eating like an artist, you want to make sure that every meal, or almost all your meals, 80% of your meals, half of that meal is based on these colorful foods. You might have heard of the recommendation by the World Health Organization or maybe the local government that encourages us to eat 5 a day. So 5 servings of vegetables and salads and fruit every day. That really is the minimum. In my opinion, I think we should try and actually have more than 5 a day. But if you're not managing that, it's a good place to start. A portion, so one of your 5 a day, a portion would be a fistful. So it's actually about 80 grams, which is generally about the size of a tennis ball. So the idea is over the period of a day to have 5 tennis ball portions of these kind of foods. So let's say you have a smoothie in the morning and you use a small apple and a banana. That's 2 of your 5 a day. And by the way, you don't want to have more than 2 or 3 pieces of fruit a day. They're very healthy and good for us. But if you're wanting to lose weight, you also don't want to consume too much fruit sugar. So about 1 or 2 pieces of fruit is great. Then the other 3 should come from vegetables. So let's say you try and have a salad at lunch, or at least have significant amount of vegetables at night. You can get your 5 a day. It's really not as difficult as perhaps you may think. So eat like an artist. Make sure that your next plate of food contains some kind of color. And I'm sure that you'll reap the rewards and maybe get to live to over 100 and feel good while you're doing that.